Right. What about obviously one of the big names we didn't do yet was Heretics, right? This is the one where I also feel like this is another one that has like a narrative burden or baggage, which is, first of all, I'll just tell you in case you're not aware, Jensen. Ever since he went to Cloud9, look, when he was on G2, I'm sure Fnatic fans hated Perkz, but that was more because he's the cocky star of the rival team who's stolen caps, he's winning all the championships. You had a reason to hate him then. Ever since he went to Cloud9, people have had such a hate border for Perkz, it's crazy. Like, they genuinely do, like, prey on this guy's downfall. They want him to fail and be bad so they can laugh and go, haha, you know, he's arrogant, overpaid, get him out the league, basically. Although, I did say in the offseason, that's real info I pointed out, he actually has a pretty low salary now, if people don't know. He doesn't have the big vitality salary of last year. And as I said, I think that's a pretty positive sign. It almost implies to me he just wants to win again and play with former teammates like Jankos and Wonder and get the band back together. So obviously, because the top side of the map is Season 8 G2, and then collectively, when they had the role swap with Perkz, they were in the others G2 that won everything. Obviously, the expectations are enormous. You either hate it and you want to go, it's a washed up retirement club, lol, they're all going to feed, or you want to believe, hey, let's do a run back. This is the last dance. You know, it's possible. And then the joke even is, if people have missed this one, I think you could even argue Flacken and Kaiser, it's not even a sort of terrible sort of Wadid fucking Yarnan analog. It's even like you've cynically built this like Season 8 G2. So to me, I feel like all of that gets it before people ever even look at the games. Who is this Heretics team to you? The team you actually saw on the server, if we don't get weighed down by names, who did you think they were? Were they good?
Okay, I will be a little bit concerned, right? But I'm gonna have a little bit of fun with the narrative here.
Okay.
So you know how in like some animes, like those that are shonen animes, where there's like multiple seasons of them, and then the first season they introduce like this big major villain that's like he's just destroying everybody with a single touch, and then the protagonist goes up to him and then they eventually defeat him. Then they bring this same antagonist back in season 7, right? And then there's two possible outcomes with regards to this, right? Is either that this guy has reinvented himself and then he's reestablished himself as a big bad, or he just shows up as a mark as to where the power scaling in this show is right now,
Oh,
right?
as a
So
reference point to
narratively,
show that they've like advanced way beyond
yes.
that, right? I see. Okay.
So narratively, just watching those first two games, it felt like Team Heretics was kind of the latter, right? They showed up, they kind of struggled, they lost the Mad Lions in the first game, and it felt like they had to bring back all the best hits, camping in the jungle. They're showing out over there, they're showing that like final form, the way that these were all the tactics that they used to beat SKT
Yes.
back in 2019, and it brings you back to flashbacks and the nostalgia with all these creative set pieces in the jungle and all that kind of stuff. And you know that if the returning villain shows all that in the first scene, he's toast, right? He's toast by episode 3. So narratively, that is where I had that's the impact that Team Heretics had on me when I watched those first two games.
Okay.
But thankfully, real life doesn't work like anime, right? Real life thankfully does not work like anime. And I would have to say that I think Peter probably he's always very good at playing defense, but he probably explained it quite well. They had the shocker of a loss against Mad Lions. I have to say that that's very largely due to draft and a very intelligent level 3 invade from it that I believe was caught by Elioria. And as a result of that, they didn't really have much of a foot back into the game after minute 4, right? And then the second game was against Giants or
Yes,
something like
Giant
that.
X. Yeah.
Yeah, it was against Giants, right? And those guys, I think, are going to be the whipping boys of the league this entire year. And they were able to win that, but it really looked very indecisive. They were just all over the place. They weren't really sure as to where they're going to be fighting, and they were setting up for all the best hits and things like that. But it just felt off, right? And then it's only when they went into the final game where they were able to beat who was it in the third game?
Oh, fucking hell. Who was it? Let me think.
Uh,
Oh, no, Giant X was the
Rogue.
last game. The second game was
Giants was the last
Rogue.
game, right? It
Rogue
was
was the
Rogue.
second game.
Yes.
Yes, that was it.
Yeah, it's only when they play against Giants X, then this is like, yeah, this is the 2018-2019 G2 that we knew,
So they
right?
powered up
They're just
finally
not
by
there.
the third episode in this analogy, right?
Yeah. So they defied expectations and then they just powered up once again.
Okay.
So everyone's like, oh crap, we've got to respect them again, right?
Right.
So that's kind of how I see them. I think this is definitely a good team, right? And I think that any team that plays Bart is a team that I like, right? Same thing
Oh, sure.
with mid laners that play the map. Bart, I think that Magical Journey is arguably one of the
It's
top
OP
five
as
best
fuck,
spells in the
innit?
game.
Yeah.
Yes, and especially with the way that they've changed the map, it's already a good spell, but because the map has changed, people are going to get caught off guard
Oh, for
against it,
sure.
right? Because people just don't expect the new angles they can come in from
Yes.
and all those style of things, right? But to just kind of bring things back to the whole coaching angle, right? You have to look at Peter Dun's history in terms of how he has created rosters and all that kind of things, and you have to wonder if this Team Heretics thing is a Peter Dun project, right? The Peter Dun formula is the first team is in the first year you get a bunch of rookies and then you try to build around those rookies, find out what the limitations are around those teams, and then you bring in the right pieces accordingly, right? It just so happens that these two pieces that are being brought in are Perkz and Wonder going into the second year. So was this something that they went together and said that this is exactly what our team needs to fix our current problems, and then this is the kind of players that we have, or is this something where Perkz and Wonder want to play Viankos again, and they are willing to take a big pay cut? And you definitely do not say no to that, right? You are never going to say
Oh,
no to that,
sure.
right? And then that comes back into this. Are they going to play in his vision of the game? Is Peter Dunn going to take a facilitative role in terms of enabling their vision of the game? Is their vision of the game, if they're trying to relieve 2019 G2, even the correct version of the game that's supposed to be played? Or is that correct version that 2019 G2 wasn't only enabled because they had Mickey X, right? Which is a missing piece. And Mickey X over the last 2-3 years, he's proven to be consistently
Yeah, for
a
sure.
tick in whatever team that he has participated in, right? Be it XL, he joins it, instantly improved. Whichever team he's on, it instantly plays a lot better. So this is the whole, is this Jurgen Klopp going to Liverpool or is this David Moyes going to Manchester United kind of scenario,
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah, if people don't know, that's actually a banger analogy because obviously when Jurgen Klopp went to Liverpool, obviously his eye did carry over and his scouting and all the shit he does works. But the analogy Jensen's given is David Moyes looked awesome when he was with Everton before he was at Man United, but famously, almost like getting the stars and the pressure of Man United is what kind of crushed his career. And he kind of showed, there's a term I've often tried to explain to Monty because it's very much an English football term. There's a term like small club manager. Like you're basically all, it's why I actually try to do this in league if people don't know, is if you, there are certain people where they'd almost be better with like the current Mad Lions lineup. Like rookies will just do whatever they say and then they can like do all these mastermind plans. Whereas the point here is, if you are Peter Dunn, the perception is your job now is to be like Phil Jackson, mate. You're just supposed to manage huge egos and kind of they're the stars. They win you the game. Because I'll tell you the reason why I do think if you're Peter Dunn, you can't say no to this roster. You're right. I don't care what any fan says. Right. First of all, you'd just be a lunatic if those players ever go elsewhere. And in the case of Jankos, especially, it's plausible. If he goes elsewhere and wins a championship and you said no, you will be kicking yourself metaphorically for the rest of your career. And then secondly, the Perkz one. Here's what's funny. I know to a fan, they're like, oh, I'd turn that down easily. He was kind of a bit washed on vitality. Yeah, but here's the problem. I'll give you a quick analogy. If people know in MMA, back in the day, this is quite a while ago now, the best lightweight fighter used to be this amazing fighter from Hawaii called BJ Penn, right? And he was a really amazing all-around fighter. But the famous thing about him, Jensen, was he was one of those people that was sort of had like waning motivation. Like he had to really like be hyped for the fight, or it had to be like a title fight. There had to be something to like extra to really fire him up so that then he'd do in his training camp, like proper training. And because he was so talented, I mean, his nickname literally was the Prodigy. He was like amazing from the time he was like 19 years old. Because he was so talented, essentially, unless it was the absolute best fight, it wouldn't make him train the hardest. He'd always think like, you know, I can train sort of 70% and I'll still win. But there was a famous fight, right, where he did train the full amount, and there was all these videos, right, where he was like doing crazy athletic feats. Like he could be standing in the pool and he could just jump out of the water onto the side of the thing. If people don't know, that takes insane, like explosive sort of like muscles. Like if that means he'd actually done. So there's a famous concept though, Jensen, which was that if you ever wanted for the future fights, when he figured this out, fans of his, even though it wasn't what he was saying, they would always hype themselves for his later fights by going, I've heard he's really motivated. Because then your brain would go, oh, wait, that means, oh, shit. Like, and then your brain would think, oh, it's going to be that guy that was going to be the peak BJ Penn. He's going to destroy him. And so the meme became like, oh, he's really motivated for this fight. And then obviously later in his career, you know, he went to shit and he lost and he obviously wasn't. He didn't. And the joke is he probably never did train that hard again in his career. The joke is, if Perkz comes to you, I don't care what his form was. If he goes, yeah, I'll play for way less money, I'm really motivated. Again, how are you going to say no? If you're a coach, that's like, Look, it could be the devil in your ear, but man, that's going to be like honey in your ear, mate. That's going to be that's what you dream of someone saying if you're a coach like Peter. They're like, what? Wait a minute, my like all-time great player is going to take way less money, so he's already almost like gold efficiency priced in at this point in time. And then secondly, if he really is super motivated, in the last few years we're sort of like semi-phoning it in, I'm going to look like a genius. I'm going to get like the prime rollback Perkz, and then they're all going to say it was me. I did it. Like, by the way, if you're Peter, you have to. You'd be a fool to say no to. You basically have to gamble it. And even if it doesn't work, you go, right, at least I know it didn't work now. It's the what if would haunt you forever, guys. You have to understand there's certain players, like the difference is, it's not as certain you had to sign Trimby. If Perkz comes, guys, you can't say no. The name alone's too powerful. So I actually agree. I think the key thing here, again, to bring it all the way back to the episode is, let's look at who these coaches are. I trust that Peter Dunn can figure out how to get these guys into shape. By the way, I'll tell you the massive, obvious, insane green flag from week one is the one player nobody was in on this team, Jensen, I can tell you right now, was Kaiser. Everyone was hating on him. And do you know what? Fucking hell, is Peter Dunn the Kaiser Whisperer? That Bard game, like, just restored, like, faith in fucking humanity or something. Like, that was insane. That one game made you actually think, wait, is there actually, like, a good player in there the whole time and they sort of couldn't get to him? And if so, mate, if there's going to be more games like that, suddenly I'm even in on the Kaiser angle. Like, I agree with you, by the way. Any team that can actually play a Bard, I get that it's supposedly really hard to play around, but, man, it's so OP. Like, the joke of that champion is, think about it, the ult basically, like, nullifies like side advantages and stuff. You can just create new gank angles. Like, it actually is amazing. Like, I mean, everyone saw Carrier on it back in the day, Afro Moo, people like that, Mickey X, obviously. If you can play this champion as well, also it's going to be really fun in draft. You have to really consider now. Like, by the way, until Heretics gets good, you might have to ban fucking Bard against this team if they will play like that. So yeah, I actually think this is one of the teams where, look, they're not the best team in the league, but I'm not too worried by the first games. As you say, it's actually the order of them that sort of gives you the faith, because they did sort of like, it's like you say, they powered up. They started looking a bit washed, then it was a bit like, well, that was a bit close, and then at the end it was like, it's pretty good actually, yeah, not bad. But this is the segue. You are right. Strength of schedule has to again be considered, guys. They did play Rogue and fucking GX, but they had a pretty bad fucking strength of schedule, guys. On paper, they should probably 3-0 there.
To see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.